So I was,
Well, it's
I
funny you
was
say
also
that.
learning
Yeah.
about.
Because folk and
It was,
opera, I feel like those two genres might be the two most important genres where vocals, for vocals as an instrument. Perhaps like really
absolutely,
heavy metal too, probably would be. They would probably argue with me
yeah.
on that, but I think those two genres, folk and opera, are really heavily focused on vocals. So, what did you learn through those genres about your own instrument vocally? Not percussionist, but just with your vocals.
Yeah, with my vocals, it was really interesting because I was having singing lessons, which where I was learning all about, singing P.A.A.Z.U. and, Time to Say Goodbye. And I was listening to, Sarah Brightman with Andrew Lloyd Webber and those types of
Hmm.
like crossover things.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I was going to my folk group, sitting on my cajon, learning about my posture while singing on the instrument, which I suppose it was the very beginnings of the active musicianship in me, learning to sing and play at the same time. And then, yeah, in folk group, even though my singing teacher was teaching me how to get my voice to be one kind of thing and not think about it as my belt and my higher register and all those things. In folk group, I was learning to use the change in my voice
Yep.
between, and I was kind of doing it on purpose as a kind of rebellious, like, and I love singing opera and classical, but actually this sounds so cool. So I was really doing this with my voice, and I think it's really the time that I was able to do so many concerts and so many single shows and create my own music in that folk group where I was learning to love all of it and just use my voice all the time and see where its limits were and where
Yeah.
I could push it. Yeah, so I really those years were excellent and I needed them.
And when you look at your solo stuff, that is so present. You can see what you're or see is obviously not the right word. You can hear and listen to your inflections with your voice through your delivery of the songs that you have out. Just like the one you just shared, how not to start a fight. Your vocals are so brilliantly done, and I can understand where you're learning that stuff. Like just knowing where to go with that instrument is so important in delivery, I feel. So now that you're a solo artist, I know you're not just a solo artist. It's just part of who you are, which is crazy that you do all of this stuff. But now that you are a solo artist, what struggles are you finding that may not have existed when you were part of a band or an ensemble?
I think I miss being able to gig with my friends on stage. Like being a solo artist, all of the pressure's on you in terms of, and I hate to say it, but it's especially as a female, it's so important. What you look like, what you're wearing, how you're turning up to the gigs, the safety after a gig of like getting yourself home, getting
There's
all
no
your equipment
shadows.
there,
There's no shadows whatsoever. You are it. Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
This is it. And if I've had one too many to drink the week before or something, I'm going, oh, I'm feeling a bit. There's no hiding, especially at the moment. I've only done one big band gig. I'm trying to build on that, but obviously it's money and all. There's so many things to put into consideration with pay and stuff like that. But really, I'm focusing quite heavily at the moment on just me singing with my guitarist Josh. So it's really lovely having him there because. We actually got to know each other in secondary school, so I've known him for over 10 years, and
Wow.
I really trust him, and I know that he knows when I'm having a bad gig or vice versa, not that the audience will be able to tell, but
Right.
he can. So it's really nice just to kind of look at him in a gig and go, I think we'll skip that song right now. I'm not feeling it. And he'll just be like, got you. Like, okay, let's move on. There's no kind of pressure. But yeah, ultimately it is me. And there's so much pressure on me. And, there's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves as solo artists that other people don't care about. But it's just all so important for like pushing your music out there. So yeah.
It just goes back to that vulnerability too, right? Like when you're writing your own stuff and now you're presenting your soul to an audience. It's a big thing, I can imagine. So we
Yeah.
talked about percussion, and I've been very blessed to talk to a lot of songwriters over the years, award nominated, award winning, Grammy, you name it. I mean, we've had a lot of really cool folks on the show, and you would be surprised how many songwriters start behind a drum kit. You really would, but from the standpoint of actually writing songs, it is really different for y'all, isn't it? Like, you don't get to just sit with a guitar and mess with strings or mess with a note on a piano or something like that. You literally have to write the lyrics and then kind of tap or hum or whatever that gets that melody across to a musician that can actually fill in the blanks, right? What is the process for you as a drummer writing songs?
So, as a drummer, sometimes I feel like it's an absolute joy to not be constricted to like chords and chord
Mm-hmm.
progressions and oh well it makes sense to go there next or let's just start a song in four because that's what no offense, but lots of guitarists and blah blah blah, they're not really interested in rhythm as a huge thing. But the
Mm-hmm.
drums are there to support and to keep four to the floor and they're just there in the background. For me, I'm already going, where's the drum breakdown? How do we set up a groove that I know people are gonna one two two in terms of like they can step to the side or there's certain rhythms that it's impossible to write a song to a certain rhythm to not make somebody dance. Like it's like psychological. Like
Yeah.
there's a certain BPM, there's a certain, I remember vividly with How Not to Start a Fight, my first solo song. I wanted initially the music video to be able to I wanted people to be able, it was a walking tempo. How not to start a fight. That's how somebody would walk down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not at a fast pace, not at a slow pace, but that's how they'd go. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to bring my Gibraltar roots in by the kind of reggaeton feel. Dun, 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 dun. That is how somebody walks along the road, right? So, like, I'm consistently and constantly, sorry, thinking about rhythm first. Although
Which is
it is
backwards. I
very
just want to let
difficult.
people know out there that is
It
backwards
is.
for most
So
songwriters.
backwards.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so backwards. Like some people I write with are like, "Why are you starting with the drum beat?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Because that's gonna make the song. That's
Yep.
that's what's here. That's like my how I feel." And they're like, "Okay." But yeah, like I play a little bit of bass and a little bit of piano. Not that I shout to anybody about it because I don't want any jobs playing those instruments. I'm not quite there with them. But it me, it opens up a world of collaboration, which I don't think other singer-songwriters are maybe as um positive about. Like they don't think of that as a positive thing necessarily because they can sit on their instrument on their own and produce a song. For me, I'm going, I need somebody else in the room with me.
Right.
I need somebody with the theory and I don't feel ashamed of that because it's not my it's my weakness, right? Not with melody lines. I can use my voice. I know where I want the song to go, but I need kind of like a translator to sit with me. Um, and what that does is it opens up a world of working with some of like now who I'd consider to be like my best friends. And we can look back on the time where we sat in my garden and I had my little cajon out or some sticks and I was singing the melody going, can we go there? What chord would that be? And they were like, in this chord. And like I really truly feel like all of my songs so far are collaborations with friends who I admire, and that for me makes me even prouder of them. That I can say I've written this with my friend, and they are brilliant too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's going to be a horrible feeling, though, because as a songwriter, I know from hearing so many stories over the years that you're basically a conduit. And you don't really get to choose when that inspiration hits you. So you could be on the bus or the train or in the middle of sleeping or something when a thought hits you. And if you need somebody else in the room to flesh out that thought, that person may not be available when the conduit happens, right?
yeah. So in those situations, I will just voice note and voice note and voice note, even if I can hear the strumming pattern, or if even if I'm going one, two, three, two, two, three, three, whatever I can do to get my ideas into my phone, which I know I can send straight to somebody, that's what I'll do. And actually, because I'm an actor and I travel a lot and I'm always on tour, it just kind of works perfectly because I'm also never around. I'm not in one place at one time ever. Like this is the first time in 2 years I've been home for more than like a month. So
Right.
it's like, and I'm more than happy to travel. So yeah, it can be difficult. Of course it can be. And
So,
sometimes you've got to wait, but yeah.
So when you do have to wait, when you have to delay that, you're in a certain spot, whether it's whatever emotion you're dealing with at the time that that thought comes. Does your background in acting actually help you get back into that space when you do get to collaborate?
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely in the past I've written little kind of after the point at which I put everything musically that's in my head into my phone, I'll then sit there and I'll describe my surroundings and I'll say I'm on a bus, I've just done this show, I'm on my own, it's dark, this is the temperature. I'll write all of my senses in like a list so that I know that when I go back to writing that song, or even if I'm on Zoom with a friend, I can go I can literally put my head right back to how I felt in that moment,
That's
and I think
amazing.
that's definitely come from acting for
Man, that's
sure. Yeah.
amazing. That's great stuff. Staying with songwriting, because I'm always so genuinely inquisitive about the creative process. Do you typically write songs from your own personal perspective, or are you able to kind of transition into somebody else's mind space as well and get down what they might be feeling or seeing?
I've definitely written at least sections of my songs where I'm predominantly talking about my own experiences, and then maybe a bridge will come in. It happened with Pretty Alright, my recent single that I
Love it.
released. The bridge, thank you.
Yeah.
The bridge is actually my friend Lauren had messaged me and said that she was struggling because there was no work coming. She's an actor in London. She's from the north, but she lives in London. And she was just we just had this Zoom conversation to like catch up, and she was saying that she was struggling, and I as soon as I came off the Zoom, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be so lovely to write like a poem to encourage her, or to like or for all of my friends who are struggling. It's kind of the same vibe as Night Bus, where I was talking about London and stuff. And I immediately just wrote the lyrics to now what I know as the bridge to Pretty Alright, which I thought when I wrote Pretty Alright, I went, that makes sense now because Pretty Alright was me talking about my past experiences and looking back at like moments where you're not okay. And then I thought, well, I don't want it to be a sad song, so that using the poem that I actually wrote for my friend Lauren, which was maybe more her experience than mine at that point, I was like, if I put that in there and I make it a bridge, it changes my sad, depressing song about not feeling good about yourself into this like kind of what's the word? Momentous, like you can get over the hill, like keep going,
I mean, it's about
strength
victory. It's
song.
about victory. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I put that in, she was like, "Oh, I love the song. I love the bridge." I was like, "The bridge was the poem that I wrote for you about a year ago that I sent to you to be like, carry on, you can get out of the rut." She was like, "Ah, I can't believe it."
All
So
right.
yeah, I can write for other people, and luckily all my friends are like musicians, actors. We're all very like in touch with our feelings. We all talk a lot about the industry and how we're all doing, and when the next jobs come in, and the anxieties we all face about getting work. And I think because my friends are so open with me, it really helps me delve into their lives.